And we're live. Hello, everybody. Another Facebook Live on this lovely Wednesday. Okay, live from Las Vegas, Nevada. But we are very fortunate today from the Scottsdale office, the Kierland office. We have Mr. Rob Sullivan. Welcome to the studio. And I picked Rob for a specific reason because he came in and he's been out of the gates hot right from the beginning. So, Rob, tell me a little about yourself, how long you've been in the business, all that good stuff, please.
So I've been in the business for a little over a year. I moved to Scottsdale in January, joined Berkshire in March. But when I was previously licensed prior to that, I was licensed down in Tucson with a great brokerage, great people. But my production didn't really start until Berkshire because when I was down in Tucson, I was still a full-time college student. So I didn't really
Ah,
have much time to do all the hands-on things that it really takes to be, successful, like prospecting, consistent open houses, and all of the other things. Um, but a little more about me before real estate. You know this, but I grew up in the greater New York City area, in a town called Yonkers. So back in 2017, I kind of made the bold and risky decision to move all the way across the country and where I didn't know anybody, hit a full reset. But like college is the one opportunity you have to do that and kind of go somewhere that you really want. So it was a big step, leaving my whole life behind. And but shortly after getting here and getting a taste of the weather, the mountains, the views, I mean, the list goes on. I kind of knew that I wouldn't be going back to New York anytime soon. Uh,
don't forget, you can say the weather too. The weather.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
I mean, even
yeah.
though Scottsdale in July and August is hot, it's still not, negative 20 with the wind chill like it can be
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. But I'll take the Scottsdale heat over New York being 95 with all the humidity,
But true.
So
True.
yeah,
That's
the
true.
humidity is brutal.
Yeah, well, I would call, and I'm from Southern New Hampshire, so I get it. Right outside of Boston, we were part of Boston basically. But I would say that the move, even though I fought it a little bit at first too, the move from the East Coast, especially the Northeast, to where we are, Scottsdale or Las Vegas, is a move in the right direction. I would call
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
Especially from
Yeah,
a I mean, just the weather alone, cost of living, I mean, population. Think about the traffic, everything. I mean, New York is great. It's no doubt. Boston's great, but I would much rather be in a city that's like Vegas, up and coming, really. Even though Vegas has been around for a while,
exactly.
Scottsdale, now the number
Mhm.
five largest city in the country. Even though when you go there, there's traffic, but it's nothing like New York or Boston or
Yeah,
Los.
the traffic's not terrible.
No,
And there's so many different highways, and you don't have to use the highways. For me, I'm never really traveling significantly enough to get stuck in that traffic. So it's really not that big of a deal. And I love it. I love it.
and you
And like you said,
travel around.
coming here.
Because you're on the phone prospecting and you're on the phone doing stuff. So tell them a little about what you've done because you've got some deals going, you've got some listings happening. Tell them what you're doing to be as productive as you are in such a short period of time.
Yeah, so I mean, my biggest thing when I first got into the business was kind of developing your own systems. Everybody has certain things that works for them, and certain like just because something works for me doesn't mean it'll work for you, or vice versa. But what I learned is like step one would just be a consistent calendar, like a consistent schedule with time blocking for prospecting. Like I will try to do at least 3 hours of prospecting a day, but the ultimate goal is, sometimes it varies, if I have to go do showings or meetings, but I'll aim for about 3 hours of calls in the morning, and then 2 or 3 hours of calls in the afternoon after appointments and whatnot. So I've been doing cold calls, but I wouldn't really call them cold calls because I mainly go after expired listings. So I mean, those are very warm leads, people that obviously want to sell their homes, and it didn't work the first time around. So they're very open to working with people. And then I do consistent open houses as well to kind of tap into those buyer prospects. I did a 30 for 30 challenge. I did about 31 open houses in 30 days. And that was really big for my pipeline and kind of getting things going and keeping me busy. So I've actually been thinking of doing another one of those, or maybe even more, like a 50 for 50, something like that. But you can never do too many open houses, even if it's in the middle of the week. And consistent calls and prospecting. It doesn't have to be cold calls. It could be your sphere of influence. It could be networking to other agents. Just contacting people in general for a certain amount of hours a day, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wouldn't call them cold calls either. As you know, that's my little pet peeve. But
Hmm.
expireds, they were on the market. You're calling to see if you can
Yeah.
help. For
Hmm.
sale by owners, they're trying to sell the home on their own. You're calling just listed, just sold. We just listed a home.
Hmm.
We just sold our home.
Yeah, so
People from
technically, none of those are cold calls.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always jokingly say trying to sell dish TV is cold calling.
Yeah.
What we're doing is warm and cuddly and wonderful, and no one ever gets mad at you, right? They're all
Mhm.
they're all happy to hear from you.
And then if, I mean, you'll know whether you should be contacting them again. Sometimes people don't answer, sometimes people are already, working with somebody, but it's a good way to narrow things down. And if you never call, you'll never know. So,
Okay, cool. So you did a bunch of you did 30, 31, and 30 open houses, which is great. And you got business out of that. You got a pipeline out of that. Give them some of your calling successes. Like first off, how was it your first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 30 days on the phone? Did you jump right into it? Did it take you a little while to get used to it? Tell us a little about
so,
that.
so I mean, I started on the phones back at my old brokerage, but then, I kind of was in limbo with moving everything from city to city for about a month, and getting resettled. And then when I kind of jumped back on the phones, I kind of realized I had lost touch a little bit. So that's kind of where I would like to emphasize like the importance of consistency, because
Yeah,
if you're not consistently doing it, you might not have it, whether you're using scripts or whatever you're doing, it won't be as fresh and it won't sound as authentic, I guess you could say.
right.
um, after it's always the first like five calls, I would say, on any given day that are the most difficult. But then once you get through those, or maybe even the first two, you kind of just get rolling.
Yeah,
And the confidence goes through the roof. And it's just, you really have to stay positive, because when you're calling people like that, people have jobs, they might not be able to answer during the middle of the day. You can't get like discouraged. um, if you're calling 100 people, you might only talk to 25, but you have
right.
to be okay with that, but that doesn't mean 10 of them aren't going to give you a call back or shoot you a text message. So it's definitely worth it. And, just consistency. I've actually been talking with another agent in my office. We want to start doing some role playing for our prospecting, just to
Mhm.
kind of get better with it, kind of test new things out. So I'm working on even getting better at what I've been doing every day.
Great. Great. And you said you primarily call new and old expired. So how's that been working for you? Tell us about a few listings you took by doing those and how it went. Like give us the exact specifics so they can hear the time frame, how many times you
Mhm.
talked to them out, and so forth.
So yeah, so I would, I never really expect. I wouldn't say never expect it, but on average, you won't really make contact the first contact. It's normally anywhere from the third to the fifth contact, I would say. That you kind of get in touch with the people. They might be kind of thinking, like, oh, do I want to put it back on the market right now? They might not know exactly what they want to do if you call them the day the property expires. But for example, listings I've had success with, I ended up calling somebody that had been listed for a couple of months. I called them the day that it had expired, and they were like ready to go turn around and relist tomorrow. So it can even be a quick turnover like that and get things going. There was two listings I took. I took one in Peoria and then one in Wickenburg. The Peoria one we just ended up closing on, and it was amazing. It was this couple that custom built the home back in the 70s, so it meant a lot to them. And for them to trust me, they had tried to sell it with a previous agent. They tried to sell it for sale by owner, so they were kind of at their wits end and didn't really think that anybody could get it sold. So I really had to come in strong with what myself and Berkshire has to offer. And, they ended up trusting me, and we closed last week or over Christmas about 2 weeks ago.
Nice job. So they built it custom in the 70s. Did they still have any of that long shag carpet in there?
Yes.
I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah. And it was nice. There was like stained glass windows in certain parts of the house. It was truly, certain tiled hallways that, you would probably never be able to find that kind of tile nowadays. But it was a nice house. It had great character.
Peoria is gorgeous too. Great place to live.
It was, yeah. And it was a rare property, I'd say, to come by, because it was a little over an acre, like in the heart of the city, So, most of that now is either still farmland or, just not on the market.
Right.
So.
Exactly. Okay, cool. So you called them the first time and they were ready to go right away. Did you set an appointment and go over the same day, or was it the next day, or how fast was it?
This Peoria one, actually, I called them once. I had only contacted them once, but they weren't ready to go the first day. That was actually the Wickenburg one where he was ready to go day. But the Peoria one, I had called him, and he reached back out to me. He said, "Hey, give me a couple of days." He actually had called me back when I was in Europe, ready to relist. So I was trying to work on that from afar. And then the second I got back into town, we threw it on the market. And, we sat down with him, and, while he wanted those extra couple days to, of course, interview other agents. And he said that, out of everybody he interviewed, he thought that I would probably have the best shot at it. So, I took that as a compliment, even though he was weighing his options. But, that's just the business. You're almost never going to be the only agent they talk to.
Right. Especially in today's world.
Yes, exactly. So, it went really well, and they truly trusted me, and
That's great.
we were able to get it done. It was awesome.
I can tell that means a lot to you, which is great too. That responsibility of that fiduciary responsibility comes across in the way you describe. Here's the other thing I've learned a lot, and we coach together, so I know you pretty well as far as how you do your business, but your lead follow-up, especially, and I'm just going to say this, and I don't mean it in a bad way, for your age, you follow up intensely, and for your time in the business, okay, which it takes agents a lot of times a long time to learn that. Well, I called them, they didn't call me back. I'm like, it's not their job to call you back. It's your job to keep calling until they call you back, right? So tell them a little about your lead follow-up too, please, Rob.
Yeah, so thank you for that. But the follow-up, I've heard from so many people from the beginning to even people at my old place in Berkshire now, it's all in the follow-up. You can't just think that somebody that you called, if I got on the phone with somebody today and they were like, "Oh, I'll be ready in 2 months," you can't expect them to call you in 2 months. Right. And you shouldn't even call them in 2 months. You should be calling them in at least 1 month,
Right.
Just to check up with them, see what's going on, because odds are other agents have reached out to them. They might be exploring other agents. And the biggest thing in the follow-up is even if they're not ready, is just keeping your name on the top of the pile and fresh in their mind. So when they are ready to either list or go write an offer on a property, that you're the first person that they think of. I have a client right now that, she might be listing her home in Scottsdale and having to purchase another one. And she's had many, many agents reaching out to her, but whenever she has a question about the property or what she needs to do, she calls me. And so over time we've kind of developed that, and now I've kind of become the sole agent that she's talking to. So just the consistent follow-up, staying in front of them, and also providing value to them. I don't mean just texting them or calling them and saying, "Hey, are you ready yet?" No, provide them some market value, some information on their property. The property value could change. Keep them updated on mortgage rates, stuff like that. It's really not too tedious. If you have a system, do a couple of tasks each day. I'm not telling you to go call a whole database in one day, but if you calendar it properly, it's pretty doable. So
you have to provide value, and that's what you're doing. So tell us a little bit about when you're, because when you call expires, you're doing it the way that gets you sharpest the fastest, but it also has the most, I would say resistance because, you got to fight a few of these times to get the appointment and get him to trust you and so forth. So how has the brand, the Berkshire Hathaway name, how has that helped you in your endeavors?
I couldn't even tell you how much it has, immensely, honestly. Nothing against my previous brokerage, but it was just not as well known name, and it doesn't really have that national or even worldwide recognition that Berkshire does. And like when you tell people that you're with Berkshire Hathaway, at my old company, they'd be like, "You're with who?" But with Berkshire Hathaway, they know exactly what it is. And the old company is a great company, and they're still very successful. There's no malice there. But with Berkshire Hathaway, it's just such a significant, long lasting brand that's been around forever, and has just been growing and growing and growing every year. People know what it is. You say Berkshire Hathaway, they immediately think of Warren Buffett. And when I'm trying to market myself and Berkshire's services to people, they truly believe that you can offer what you're saying. With the tools and resources, and all the professionalism that comes with it. So Berkshire Hathaway has just the brand recognition is, I would say, 10 out of 10. I've never had somebody tell me they didn't know who it was or didn't believe that we were able to do what we were offering,
Yeah, it's great. And I appreciate that too. And I feel the same way too. I always call him Uncle Warren. Uncle Warren knows what he's doing, even though I've never met the man. I still call him Uncle Warren because I feel like I know him because I've been reading about him since I've been your age, for crying out loud. That's how long, he's been the sage of Omaha. But no, and the reason I bring that up is because, okay, so you have a professional, you're young, you're a professional, you speak incredibly well, you're not afraid to work, do your homework. Without that, if you have a brand, but you're not using it like you are, then you're not going to get the benefit. But you put those two together, take the person and you're the brand within the brand, you put those two together. And that's what I'm trying to get people to see today, Rob, is that, what you're doing, although it's unique because not everybody's willing to do it, there's nothing in there that is so astronomically tough that somebody on the call or somebody watching this today couldn't do as well, correct?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because it's not only is the information that and the listings that I'm going after on the MLS, and it's like pretty much public knowledge. All you have to do is just contact the owners. They would likely 9 times out of 10 they're looking to relist unless the property was maybe on the market for like 300 plus days. They might want to take a break or kind of restructure. Maybe they'll rent it out. That's the only time I'll ever not see success with it is if they're thinking of turning it into a rental or passing it down to a family member, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just say stay away from that do not call list. But otherwise, if there's a do not call, you can always knock on the door.
I love that tool on the VAC. Every time when I'm going through a whole list of anybody, and it's I'll run everybody through the DNC, and I have to do it every time because there's been times where somebody that I'll call one week is not on the DNC, then they figure it out and put themselves in the DNC. So I check every time. I don't want to cause any issues or anything, but 90% of people are, so it's still worth it.
Very smart, very smart. Okay, so if I'm somebody, whether I'm brand new like you, okay, or somebody who wants to ignite their business to the next level, tell them the 3 things that you focus on. Like, what are the 3 most important things that you would tell them to do
for like a newer agent?
Well, a newer agent or even an agent that's seasoned that just needs to get into gear. So there's a lot of them out there too.
Okay. So, I would say the first piece of advice would be based around hesitation.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest curve for me when I first started was really hesitating to put myself out there with marketing and hesitating to like follow through on certain methods of prospecting because, I was worried what people were going to think if I was marketing myself all over social medias. And then I came to just really not care. And then, I would hesitate on certain prospecting methods because sometimes I would feel like, I was being a bother to some of the some of the people. But then I really came to realize is, the reason why I'm in touch with these people in the first place is because they're obviously trying to get their home sold or they're interested in buying a home. It's like they didn't just appear out of nowhere, they're in the system for a reason. So hesitation, not hesitating would be the biggest piece of advice for number one.
I love that.
And just you have nothing to lose on the prospecting and the marketing because I mean, the more you do, they can only be beneficial.
The word you're talking about is don't be afraid to be a little vulnerable, and that's what you're describing, which is good.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah. That's
You got to fracture your ego a little bit to do that, but that's a good exercise.
Yeah, I was always thinking like, oh, what are my friends and family like going to think of me posting all this stuff on social media? I was worried about, oh, if I post too many times, it might like annoy them. But you'll learn who the real friends and family are
Right.
if you just do it consistently.
So true.
So it doesn't really.
And then
matter.
you're shocked sometimes with all the positive comments you get too, right?
Exactly. Yes. Sometimes it goes much better than you would expect.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So don't be afraid to get out there, stop hesitating, be vulnerable, get it done. Okay. Give us another one, please.
Number two, for the second one, I would say kind of back to the Berkshire brand, really utilizing two aspects, really utilizing all the tools and resources that the company has to offer because it's immense to what I've seen in the past and what I've heard from other agents outside of our brokerage. We're truly blessed to have everything at our fingertips that we do have. And then combining that with when you're a newer agent, really being present in the office, at least until you get the ball rolling and kind of building some momentum, because using all those tools and resources while being at the office is what really allowed me to build relationships and get the guidance and answers to the hundreds of questions that like a new agent normally has. And it also allowed me to kind of hang around those veteran agents who are so successful and kind of learn how they got to where they are today. Yeah. So being present in the office, there's nothing wrong with maybe taking one day from home, and prospecting there, but being present in the office and using all the tools it's amazing.
Well, and you have a tremendous office there with some really productive agents who are not afraid to share their, what they do.
Yes, exactly. And I'm very grateful for them too, because, they've given me a lot of guidance and there's always no one transaction's the same. There's always going to be something that comes up that you probably haven't dealt with, at least in the first couple of years of your career. Right. So they've been a great help.
All right, cool. Give us one more. What else would you tell them to be focused
on? So this one kind of actually came from you when through our coaching. Mm-hmm. You said it one day, and I kind of like cemented into my mind. And you said that one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you is to major in one form of lead generation and minor in another, or have two minors, but kind of focus mainly on one and then have two others, so you can kind of have multiple layers to your business and prospecting. Mm-hmm. Because, so for example, like my lead gen major is prospecting the expired listings, while my minors are doing the consistent open houses for buyer prospects, and then also being in consistent contact with my sphere of influence. So kind of layering those allows me to really always be busy, because if you're only doing one, you're kind of limiting yourself there. It's better than zero, but I would suggest layering and doing multiple things.
So have at least 3 lead sources, but one being the major and 2 minors. Yeah. I like the way you look at that. That's good. That's smart. That's very smart. And
not too many, because
but not too many either. Right? Don't dilute it. Get good at whatever because you deliver that script like your sphere, open houses, right? Especially where you are. I mean, you live in one of the best markets on the planet. It's been in the top 10 for years. So many people, for a long time, Scottsdale Phoenix was like the best secret, just like Vegas. But now people across the country, cost of living, goes right down the line with some, I mean, Phoenix, the Phoenix Scottsdale area is like the number 1 location for people moving out of California, and Vegas is up there too in the top 5. So it's a great market to be in there. And someone that's newer like yourself, you can't rely just on the sphere. But so you're
Mhm.
creating you're creating your own sphere by prospecting new categories, which is great. Good for you. It takes, it takes work to do that.
Yes, a lot of work. I will be doing some hours of prospecting after this.
Well, all right, Rob, any final words you want to leave these lovely people? Because this has been very helpful. I really appreciate you taking your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure getting together with you, Rick. And we'll be looking forward to more of our coaching. And thank you,
Cool.
everybody, for watching.
Well, it's a pleasure coaching you, Rob. So I appreciate you. You know what? It's a breath of fresh air when someone is willing to do it, gets the results, and then sees how everything changes. And you can feel that you're just at the beginning of all this too. This is just the beginning. It's going to get better and
Mhm.
better. Congratulations, my friend.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, keep it rocking, everybody. We'll do this again in a week. Thanks, Rob. See you soon.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.